Mr. Chairman. In respect of the previous speaker, Mr. Mallard's call, I would draw his attention to Clause 36 of Part 1 of the bill, which actually inserts new sections 223A and 2G. So in fact he's quite right, there is no 223D in the Act as it would be in the lobby, because those provisions, those new sections, are being inserted by Part 1 of the bill. And therefore it's necessary in Part 2 to refer back to that in the schedule, and therefore there is no need for any change. So I look forward to the call and the apology that he's offered.
No, he doesn't need an apology.
Chair.
Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm wanting to follow on into the second part of Part 2, which is the transitional provision, rather than the consequential amendments part. The transitional provision is the reference there to the individual agreement and the requirement under Section 10 to basically the employer must retain a copy of the individual employment agreement or individual terms and conditions of employment. And the point really in the transitional provision is around clarifying the fact that that was around individual terms and conditions of employment that were provided to or agreed with the employee before or after the commencement of this Act. But the transitional provision and the reference there to the individual employment agreement I think is very important, because it is in this area also where the question of whether a 90-day no rights provision will apply, and that will be this will include the take it or leave it employment agreements that we've talked about previously, so the individual employment agreement that's being referred to here, whether it be before or after the commencement of this Act, whether or not it has any reference. The question of whether that was a genuine negotiation, of course is irrelevant, because take it or leave it provisions appear to be acceptable to this government, and in fact we've had members opposite arguing that that is a matter of choice. Well, those of us who know what people feel like when they're out of work and when they're struggling to make ends meet know that take it or leave it employment offers, particularly in periods of high unemployment, are not at all a matter of choice. And I think we'll find there's plenty of people in the Mana electorate that will be in that particular situation where they don't have a job, would like a job, and if they're being offered a job with an individual employment agreement that provides for the 90-day provision, there will not in fact be any sort of negotiation or choice associated with that matter. But there are a number of other transitional arrangements that I think really should be included in this part, because we will be going from a situation where the 90-day no rights provisions apply to workplaces of less than 20 to in fact going to all workplaces. And the majority of New Zealand employees work in large workplaces. So while the majority of workplaces are small workplaces, the majority of employees are employed in large workplaces. And of course these changes actually now bring those workplaces into it. And so I do wonder if there are some transitional arrangements required around, for example, the ability of work and income to deal with these changes, because of course with the provision not requiring an employer to provide any reason for a dismissal, so not only does the worker not have the right of redress, the worker doesn't actually have to be given a reason as to why they've been dismissed. Now, under our benefit system, there is a provision that basically says you can be stood down from your right to access benefits if you've lost a job because it's your own fault. Now, in a situation where you have no idea why you've lost your job, work and income have to intervene. And we did seek advice from officials on this matter, and we're provided with advice, and basically the advice in summary really is that if the employer doesn't respond to a request from work and income to give a reason, then they will actually take whatever reason the employee gives them. But if the employer does assert a reason, so even though they haven't told the employee why they've been dismissed, when work and income contacts them and said, why have you dismissed this person? If the employer says, well, I dismissed this person because actually whatever, could be something that they make up on the spot, that will be accepted by work and income. And of course there's no right to challenge this. So potentially you've got the provision that somebody could be denied access to a benefit. Now, we're applying this to all workplaces, so the extent to which work and income will be required to make these sort of judgments and to have to deal with these very complicated situations will increase. So I do wonder if there's a need to look in the transitional provisions around whether there's a need to change things. But also, I wonder about whether any thought's been given to the change in culture in our workplaces. Now, of course, that's quite a hard thing to have transitional arrangements about, change in culture. But the fact of the matter is that at the moment, most employees are working in workplaces where they can challenge unjustified dismissal, and the right to do so.
Darian Fenton.